The book is about how neo-Nazis penetrated and infiltrated the US military.
This guy that has written a couple of books, and he's really looked at the United States Army, or military overall.
How neo-Nazis penetrated and infiltrated the US military, and actually were allowed to penetrate and infiltrate the US military during the War on Terror. I expect that all these people that they allowed to serve during the War on Terror are a ticking time bomb, essentially. During the research for the book, I interviewed a lot of neo-Nazis and a lot of white supremacists who served, and none of them really believed in the war mission. What they believed was that they could get training courtesy of the US taxpayer, which they could then bring back to the United States to start what they call raho-wa, which is racial holy wars. If you send neo-Nazis and white supremacists to a country full of brown people armed with
Arabs and Muslims.
Yeah, and Muslims to boot, armed with an M16 or an M4, what do you think is going to happen? It's a complete lie that Israel or the United States is against the far right.
Wow.
In fact, they are central to it.
They're really pushing for a race war.
So let me get this straight. We're born, we go to school until we're 18, sometimes 22. We get a job and work for 40 to 50 years while leaving our children with babysitters in the same exact cycle. We retire and have 5 to 10 years of freedom, then we die. When anyone questions that cycle, they're the problem.
To pay $2,000 to only have a place to stay for 30 days is insane. To look at a human being and to tell them that you can have water, but you need to pay for it to either be hot, cold, or actually clear and purified. To look at a person and say, you were born into this world for free and you die for free, but you must pay to go both ways. Do you understand how mind-boggling those thought process is? Nobody ever thinks about this but me. But to look at a human being and to tell us that, yes, you can have oil, you can have gas, you just have to pay. You're telling me something that came from out of my mother Earth's land, something that I could have had for free myself, but you kicked me off of any point or process or even any form of land that had its richness. And if you do find somebody whose backyard just has some good old-fashioned digging, you will kick them off their land, take everything that they have, and govern their home just so you can make profit off of it. We don't sit down and think to ourselves enough about this, and I get crazy.
See, these people are waking up, finally. But I still don't know if they understand that we're taken into slavery as US citizens, state citizens at birth. And I'm going to put a very short video here, but it's the best one I've seen on how the CESTUI QUE VIE account is established at birth and how it works throughout your life, how every single thing you ever do is paid for. It doesn't matter. Utility bills, credit cards, food, water. See, what they did here is they took all of our free resources and monetized them. So I talked about this several years ago, about the impending Christian Crusader war that's headed up by Trump. And that's why you people that are black that support him are in for a big surprise. Oh, I guess, you know what? I don't know. It's beyond. It's beyond. This is why the only explanation, you guys, is that they're just not like us. Even though I said that years ago, and more supporting information kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, they're not triune beings. They're NPCs, they're extras, they're walk-ins, they're, the Gnostics call them Hillics. And they have faith. Think about that. And they pray, P-R-E-Y. I don't have faith in anything. I have a knowing. Entirely different. They live in Tomorrowland. They live in Futureland. This is why they're led around by the ring in their nose. And just like cattle, you know, when T-Rump gets on a stage, if these creatures only knew what he was thinking. When he says, make America great again, he's not talking to them. Think about it. When was America great for actual Americans? 1776? 1800s? When? It certainly wasn't any time after 1933. He's talking to his people in his circle. They don't get that, though. They think that he's talking to them. This is how, because they know how stupid they are. And they string them along year after year, decade after decade, and it just keeps going and going. They die off, they breed some more, put some more slaves in the system. You're probably wondering why I started this video with the information about the U.S. military. It's because these are two issues that I'm looking at right now, and have been. Because it's a thing. I don't know if they're going to do the draft, but I wouldn't doubt it. And you have people out there that are very misinformed on that. They think you have to sign up to be drafted. But no, just being a citizen makes you eligible, and if you don't show up, you will be put in the brigs, in jail. So, and that's why they raised the age to 42, which is good, because I hope a lot of them that have YouTube channels are drafted. That would be awesome. You know, the reason I showed these two videos, I just want to keep that in the forefront. I'm not going to talk about it. I enjoyed watching this author of these books talk, and that he's paying attention, but I found it so interesting because I pay attention to things on a very detailed, because the devil's in the details, of course. He said that these this type of individual, this neo-Nazi, wants to go into the army, the armed forces, the military, to learn how to use these weapons and so forth on the U.S. taxpayer's dollar. And this is a perfect example to show you that's not what taxes, there's not enough taxes to pay for any of this. It's all paid for by our CESTUI QUE VIE accounts. And even this woman, which I really respect, that's talking about having all of our free resources monetized and sold back to us, she's absolutely correct. But she said that, I think she said she was born free here. No, you're not born free, you're born into a prison planet. And the reason I want to show her saying this is because I hope this helps her understand that we are taken into slavery, we are suretized, and see, there's universal laws here that unless you're a triune being, you won't understand. The only reason they can take our body, our vessel, and suretize it with the U.S. Treasury for $1 million, $2 million, whatever. Patrick Devine, he said something about starting with 17 million, I believe, if I remember correctly. His whole life work is into this thing. And the reason I put the video in here, I think his name is Straight. I could be wrong. I've never seen him before. I wouldn't recommend the channel. I don't know. Sometimes when I recommend people, I'm disappointed because then I'll find out that they're looking for a rapture. Or, you know, when I see the word ministry, that always worries me. So it's only this video that I want to recommend. And I'm showing you, so you don't even need to go to the channel. But he really succinctly shows you how the CESTUI QUE VIE account works and how it funds all the money that moves around with regard to the United States of America. And very little is ever paid by federal taxes, 10%. That's why when they send these people to war, to Vietnam, to wherever, and kill them, I'm paying for that. It has my stamp of approval, and this is why you will continue. You'll even perhaps go into a lower level of hell because you didn't stand up in this time. They're only in the business to tap into your CESTUI QUE VIE account. This is what they do in the background where they create the bid bond. And it's extensive, the process, but it's more important from my perspective, and what I'm trying to share with people is that you were brought into slavery at birth. And this has been funding the government and all these other things they do, all of these agencies. And you know, going around the world like Bill Gates has and setting up all these trusts and funds and putting medicine in little kids and crippling them and so on and so forth. So we are truly Mystery Babylon. And you have the churches where you never hear any of this because they're weak and they support the Roman Empire because they are the Roman Catholic Church. It's just that simple.
CT, Public Charitable Trust, an umbrella. There's 337 million little CQVs, CESTUI Que Vie trusts, one for each of us, right? In this country.
Say that one more time. CQV.
Every individual in the United States, and in most countries of the world, have a CESTUI Que Vie trust. And we have this CQV. And here's what happens, and this is incredibly important. Y'all know basic accounting? What is that? It's a balance sheet, right? A balance sheet. It's got debits and credits. You guys have been thinking you're the debtor. They keep telling us that, right? We're in debt. We're a debtor. We owe money on credit cards. We owe money on our house.
Yeah, so look at this. This is a basic accounting practice. What does that remind you of? When you make a cross, and at the top you write debits and credits. It's a cross. Just like the one the straw man's on.
Houses, we owe money on everything. What happens at birth, though, and I'm just going to use the figures from 75 to now because it's round numbers. We were bonded for $1 million. What does that mean? That means the bank went to the International Monetary Fund, and the bank, on behalf of the public, under your CUSIP number, borrowed from the International Monetary Fund $1 million in ones, fives, tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, and they threw it out there into the general public. They distributed that $1 million to the bank for every person who's born. That's what they do. On the credit side, $1 million worth of United States Treasury bonds are issued.
Starts the CESTUI Que Vie account is the gold that is backed and held at the Vatican. For each one of us, it's a universal law that when we come into this place that we have all our needs met. And what they did is they stole our inheritance because Satan is in charge. The archons, whatever you want to call it. One of the things I regret is anyone that I've ever used a clip of in my older videos, when I was still learning a lot of this, have all proven to be shills. A lot of them say, oh, I used to be, a Satanist, but now I'm just a Christian, and I'm here to, that's something to be aware of, because Christianity is not what one thinks it is. But that's what they're there for. Christianity is worshiping Satan. That's exactly what it is. And it's disguised to be something else. That's why those of us that see right through them. And maybe we don't see originally because we're still learning, but we know in our spirit there's something wrong with them. It's just like I know there's certain people that say that they're out there working for freedom or whatever reason. But it's obvious to see that they're doing something they don't even want to do because they've signed a contract or they come from a family of three-letter agencies and they have a parent that's always worked in them, and yet they want to say that they don't have anything to do with it. It's not true.
And they're sold. They're hypothecated. They're bundled. And they're sold on the stock exchange. And if we wanted to, I could pull up a website if we had internet access, and I could put in one of your CUSIP numbers, and I could show you the companies that are buying and selling you today. You have more than one CUSIP number, by the way. As we increase in value, I'll just put it that way, as we get better in our life, the more we join the military or get more college degrees, we get more and more CUSIP numbers. You are the credit. You are the creditor. They're making you believe you're also the debtor, and you are. You're both. This is your vessel. This is you. Okay? This is your labor. This is your worth. I got 5 college degrees. Every time I got an advanced degree in college, I got a new CUSIP number. So in the military, I got a new CUSIP number. All these CUSIP numbers are attached to my main birth number. Okay? Is this in a bad spot? Anyway, let's stop here. It's a balance sheet, right? It's balanced. It's got $1 million on one side, $1 million on the other. This gets invested. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And let's just say it grows to $100 million. And by the way, that figure's low. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I've seen individuals worth $35 billion or more that didn't know they had a dime. Okay? It keeps growing and growing and growing. Our first 18 years of life, we're not spending anything. So nothing is going over here, our first 18 years. That's growing and growing and growing for 18 years, and it's being hypothecated and traded. They've done a good job of managing it. They really have. First 18 years, it's growing and growing and growing. You're not spending anything. You're not adding anything to the debit side. Then you go get a job, and you get married, and you go out and you buy a house. I'm just going to use numbers. And the numbers themselves don't matter. It's the concept, okay? You buy a car or two. You buy some utilities or two over your lifetime, some medical bills, some food, whatever. They keep track of it all through your tax returns, your credit card, your bank statements. Banking is all tied into the IMF, the Federal Reserve. We got a big buildings of bean counters called the Department of Fiscal Services, and those accountants just keep track of everything. Everybody's life. And this all starts to add up on the debit side. And this just keeps growing and growing and growing on the investment side. At some point in time, you die, and it goes through probate. They take some of this, and let's just say over your lifetime you've spent, I'm going to round it off to $10 million. So they subtract $10 million out of your investment, and they pay off all this, and it becomes a zero balance. They even pay back the initial loan to the International Monetary Fund, plus interest. That was a loan.
So see, when you open up a credit card account, they already are funded for your card. They're paid in the background through your CESTUI QUE VIE account. This is why whenever you use your prodigal son's signature, money moves. It doesn't move until you sign something, open an account, give them your social security number. Huge amounts of money transfer for driver's licenses, marriage licenses, because there's so many adhesion contracts connected to it that you'll never read, all the small print. And then you pay again. We pay double for our trouble here because we're literally in prison. We're in an outdoor prison. This is why Jesus' story is about setting the captives free. Free from what? Free from slavery, bondage. Bondage to this system. But not everyone. Not an NPC, not an extra, not a soulless creature, not a zombie. Only his people, the ones that hear his voice. And these are not shills. They can't help it. They can't do anything different. Doesn't mean they can't be a doctor, an attorney, a bean counter. In fact, that's probably what that place is filled with. They keep track of all this stuff. They also have had quantum computers forever. There's nothing coming. It's all here. It always has been. And when you have people telling you to go get your money, it's very tricky because it's theirs. Do you see? You'd literally be stealing it. That's why it's so difficult.
From a foreign entity, by the way, to the Public Charitable Trust. And they pay it back. The balance is zero. Now this has, let's just say for this discussion, has $90 million left in it. What happens to it? The CESTUI QUE VIE Trust lives on in perpetuity forever.
So
Everyone who has ever died since 1933 is currently funding government. This money gets reinvested. They can't take this. But the balance must stay the same forever. But if it keeps earning, they just sweep it off the top. And it funds government. It's called off-book funds. In the States, it's GSA. And in the federal government, it's CQV. And it continues to fund government. Why do you think they don't care if they spend $3 trillion on foreign entities?
Because it's not their money.
It came out of your trusts. It's not part of taxes. In fact, if you took the entire federal budget, how much is derived from taxes and tariffs?
Wow.
If you call up the Department of Fiscal Services and you send a FOIA request, and you ask them, who is the largest contributor to the federal budget? The Department of Justice, to the tune of $1 trillion a day, is taken out of our CESTUI QUE VIE trusts or our court systems every day. $1 trillion. That's more than 25 days than our entire gross domestic product in a year. In 25 days. They don't have to disclose the CQV. See, I had to prove this in federal court to get to talk about it. So, a big portion of this comes out of this before we die. Every time you have a court case, the case is a CUSIP number, the case number. The court clerk is the banker.